It's a great pleasure of mine to introduce Ken Rinpoche, Jangchup Choedhen, the abbot of Ganden Shartse Monastery, and thank you so much for joining our conference. For many years, Rinpoche learned Buddhist philosophy under the great masters and abbots of Ganden Monastery, and in the year 1997, he was awarded the Lorempa Geshe degree. And later, in 2007, he received the Nagarmpa in Tantric Studies from the famed Kyoto Tantric University. He is fluent in many languages and has traveled extensively to teach Dharma throughout America, Europe, and Asia. So please, everybody, give a warm welcome to Rinpoche Jangchup Choedhen.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you, and especially to be in the presence of His Holiness this morning. Now, the topic that I'm going to discuss is life and consciousness. First of all, I think Mr. Chris, the Professor Chris, have very kind of precisely and very given a very informative presentation this morning about the probability of the life in the universe and the definition of the life according to maybe the astrobiological field, or maybe his personal view. So now, first important thing that we need to discuss about life and consciousness. First, it's very important to know that we are discussing about the life within the universe, and we are discussing about the consciousness within the present universe that we are dwelling in, or that we are living in. So from that point of view, it also makes interesting to talk about the universe itself. And basically, it's a very common question, like how universe came into existence. This question has been hunting the human beings for a long time, since the beginning of human kind of community. So all the different spiritual tradition or the religion try to give answer to this question, but in past 1.5 century, the new varieties of answers have taken over the old version of answers, those were circulated in the society. Now, since I'm representing the Buddhist community, so I should better present the idea according to the Buddhist community, how we look at the universe and how it came into existence. According to the Buddhism and Buddhist cosmology or Buddhist study of the world system, very common answer is the whole universe and the world system, all the different varieties of world system came into existence as a result of the karma. But how it came into existence as a result of karma? If we ask that question, then I think Buddhist literature is not very clear on that part. It's not very clear on that part, but still there is a way that the Buddhist literature explains how universe comes into existence. But here what we need to know is very common term used in the cosmological science or the astronomical science or astronomy is universe. Is there a parallel and kind of equivalent term in Buddhist literature? There is a big question mark on that. Of course, we talk about in Tibetan language, of course, we use the term Jigten Kam, but then that have a kind of a lot of different connotations attached to it. So when we talk about the Jigten Kam, the term commonly used in Tibetan Buddhism, and the study of Abhidharma, it explains different varieties of the Jigten Kam. Probably we can replace this word with the term universe. But then in astronomy, there is very kind of every term have a very specific meaning. Like we say planet Earth, then we say the solar system, then we say the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, then we talk the universe. It's a kind of a different size every time. But then when we talk about the Jigten Kam, it may not be that specific. So it may be confusing when we keep kind of doing comparison in between these two traditions. So from that point of view, there are kind of a lot of areas where things are very vague and kind of gray. It's not black and white. So just according to the Abhidharma, when we learn how the Jigten Kam came into existence, it teaches us about the kind of time span. The whole circle of time span, according to the Abhidharma, takes 80 eons, 80 intermediate eons to complete the whole circle of the kind of emergence and kind of staying continuously, and then the kind of destruction, and then after that, the absence of the universe. So from that point of view, it built up in a whole circle of 80 intermediate eons. So within that 80 intermediate eons, the whole circle of these activities get completed. But these are very, very traditional way of explanation according to the Abhidharma. And we don't say that, I personally don't claim that this is the truth. As His Holiness has told this morning, that for me it doesn't matter world is flat or world is kind of round. It matters that the human beings need to be happy. And for that, it matters to learn specific varieties of teachings. Those are presented in Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist science and Buddhist spirituality. So somehow the existence of universe, if universe doesn't exist, then there is no question of us talking about the life, because there is no place for the life to exist, at least generally according to the present understanding of human beings. So according to the Buddhism, universe is a product of the karma, but then there are a lot of huge details in certain way, and then but there are certain questions, those are not addressed at all. So it is like that. Then next question comes, who created it? Because there are different spiritual traditions. There are traditions who feel that it is a design. Universe is designed. So if it is designed, who designed it? That's a very common question, common mentality. So there comes into the picture the creator. There are various traditions various kind of contemplative tradition or various religious tradition, they claim there was a creator and that created the world, and then there is a kind of specific details of how the universe and the world was created. So it's like that. Now this is the same thing in Tibet. Now here, we go here, which is almost same thing that I have explained. Out of various scientific theories on beginning of universe, commonly accepted one at present is Big Bang theory. Now this appears to be very commonly accepted by all the scientist community. But there were a lot of kind of, different varieties of theories initially, probably around in past 100 years or 150 years. But in the course of time, it seems like Big Bang theory has kind of prevailed the scientist thinking, and then now it become kind of almost commonly accepted theory. But then there are kind of experimental studies going on, and in many ways I feel like some of those experimental studies do approve, it's a certain way or certain extent, the Big Bang theory is the kind of most accurate and precise theory. But I'm not an expert on that, and I leave that to the astronomers and to other kind of physicists who may be addressing these things. That could be one way of looking at it, how universe came into existence. Then, out of various theories in Buddhism, common one is after completion of empty eon, a very subtle wind appeared, and it gradually grew into universe. The habitat solar system that is included in that. The process requires one intermediate kalpa. The emergence of the kind of physical universe, it requires one intermediate kalpa, which is kind of calculated to be 300 billion years. I don't know about the accuracy of that, but it is provided in some writings where probably someone have calculated it. I'm not a kind of professional mathematician, and I'm not a kind of expert on that too. So now here, the traditional Buddhist way of explaining how universe came into existence, it's very difficult to prove it through any kind of experimental science study or something like that. But then how the universe kind of came into existence at the other side in the scientific community, they have a tradition of taking exploration and then kind of doing experiments and then trying to prove that. So they do have sizable kind of data that they have acquired through their own studies and their own experiments in that field. So it's like that. Now next thing that we need to look into is the question how life and consciousness evolved in the universe. This is a very, very kind of a tough question, how life and consciousness evolved in the universe. The Buddhism and Buddhist science or Buddhist study of life or Buddhist study of kind of Abhidharma also have its own way of explaining how life came into existence in that universe which was produced through the explained process. In that process, it says that according to commonly accepted scientific theory is the natural selection unclear on beginning of consciousness. So that is what I feel. The evolution, they explain it through the natural selection, which is once again the kind of field of study of the other friends. And consciousness, I think, once again, is scientific community or the community of scientists are not kind of really addressing that part with kind of real efforts in that direction. But at the other hand, the Buddhism or the Buddhist studies explains life has been existing in the universe eternally. Instead of explaining how it began, emphasis is put on explain how it recycles or continues. It applies to consciousness too. So here, Buddhism never tells us in general how life has started, because it's an irrelevant question. It's irrelevant in the sense that according to the Buddhist belief system, or according to the Buddhist philosophy, life has been existing without a beginning point. So if something is existing without a beginning point, there is no way. It's irrelevant to kind of explain, or it's irrelevant to keep saying or explaining about the beginning point, how it came into existence. So that is Buddhist point of view on the life in general, and it also applies a similar way to the consciousness. Because according to the Buddhist philosophy, consciousness is existing without any beginning point. If something doesn't have any beginning point, there is no way that you can explain it started that way and it started it this way. So from that point of view, it doesn't really make sense of talking about the starting of the kind of life and consciousness. But then, as His Holiness have put it forward this morning, the most important part is the happiness, and it is related to the consciousness and the mind. So according to Buddhism, it's very important to study the consciousness. How does it occur, and how does it sustain, and how it can be kind of modified, how it can be improved, and all those things. So that is a kind of a vast field of study in Buddhist kind of academic or academic community or academia. And in the same time, life does exist. That is a very common experience that we feel in our day-to-day life. And life is an important factor. So it's very important to know how does it kind of sustain, and how does it recycles. So in that part, Buddhist teachings explains in detail the recycling process and the continuity of the life. And when we talk about the recycling process and the continuity of the life, we first need to know what is the life. If we don't define the life, there is no way that we can talk about the recycling process and continuity of the life. So it is all dependent on the definition of the life. How do you define it? My friend, Professor Chris, has already kind of explained the definition of the life according to his point of view, or maybe the astrobiology field of point of view. But then there is a Buddhist point of view about what is life. Now here I put it forward. Scientists says definition of life is surprisingly difficult to biologists to agree on. That is what you have written in your book. I have taken it from there. And you already said the same thing in this morning. And everyone agrees on the attributes of the growth and reproduction. That is one way of explanation of the life, or the definition of the life, according to certain field of science. And another thing that Professor Chris put forward is idea of life as flow of matter and energy makes perfect sense. So that is what you also explained this morning. So these are the few kind of definition that I found in the kind of books that I've read on the life, how it is defined in the scientific community and kind of by the scientists. And then when we compare it to the Buddhist way of looking, kind of defining the life, the Buddhism says, life is something that have primary function to be central support of consciousness. So now it's a very different kind of definition compared to the definition that is presented by the scientific community and the scientists. Now this is based on the Abhidhamma study. In the Abhidhamma, within the Abhidhamma, there are different traditions of Abhidhamma. At presently, most prevalent in the Tibetan Buddhist community is the Abhidhamma Kosha. Abhidhamma Kosh, according to Abhidhamma Kosh, the definition of life is like that. But then, according to the Abhidhamma Atsanga, definition of life could be a little bit different. Because Abhidhamma Atsanga explains the life from different angle. They divide the life force into two categories. One belongs to the category of consciousness. It is taken as one of the main kind of mental factors. And another part of it belongs to the category of the form. It is understood as the sixth sense organ. So it's a very distinct presentation than the presentation according to the Abhidhamma Kosh. So, but more prevalent in the Tibetan Buddhist studies is the explanation that is given in the Abhidhamma Kosh. So we just take the explanation of the life in that way. And then now, when we talk about the consciousness, once again, we also need to define what is the consciousness. Now, if we don't define the consciousness, we cannot talk about the existence of consciousness and the emergence of consciousness and such things. So it's very important to know, how do you define the consciousness? So here, a scientist says, I don't know what they say. Maybe, I think sometimes I feel like there are big question marks they put in front of the consciousness. They may be confused in certain occasions, but I'm not sure. I have no idea what really means consciousness to the scientific community. But then the Buddhism explains consciousness as something characterized by clarity in its nature and having function of knowing. So this is a kind of Buddhist point of view. The consciousness should have these characteristics. In nature, it should be clear, and in its functioning, it should be knowing. So that is a kind of a Buddhist way of presenting the consciousness. So now we have explained the life and consciousness, its definitions. Now, next spot, or the next point is there a beginning point of life and consciousness? This is already explained in the beginning, that according to the Buddhism, life and consciousness in general have no beginning point, but life on planet Earth or in this solar system may have started almost 19 eons ago. That is Buddhist point of view according to the Abhidhamma. In general, we cannot put a beginning point for that, but life on Earth may have. Life on planet Earth and life in this solar system that we are living may be built up or started 19 eons ago. But then, how did it started? There is a big that could be the next question. How did it started? According to the Buddhist study of cosmology and the study of life, after the emergence of this physical solar system, then only after completion of that the life started to exist there, and it was started from upward down. According to Buddhism, it's not like the amoeba moved step by step towards a emerging into a form of intelligence and all those things. It is moved from upside down because there is a level of existence which cannot be destroyed or which cannot be destructed. It remains forever. So in those level of existence or those planes of existence, life is always available. So from there, the one variety of life dropped down into this solar system, and then in the course of time, more and more varieties of life then dropped down, and then it evolved here. So this is the process according to the Buddhism. Now it goes step by step, it goes all the way down to the last step. And then there will be the the continuity of the universe, the solar system for a certain period, and then after that it starts dismantling. So that is the Buddhist way of looking at it. And next question is, where and how do life and consciousness thrive? Under what conditions do they flourish? So this one is for thriving and sustenance of life and consciousness, according to the scientists, they require nourishment like air, water, and various other factors. For flourishing, they may need carbon or amino acids. There are lots of question marks. I've taken some of them from your book, The Living Cosmos, and I think maybe some of them are not, but it's basically most of them are from your book. And then next is, Buddhism says, 4 types of nourishments are needed: food, contact, volition, and concentration. Maybe carbon could be necessary for a specific type of limited variety of life, maybe, but the text won't say anything about the carbon, because carbon was a particle which was not known in those days, at least in its present name. So it is not explained in that. Many questions raised by scientists are new to Buddhism, so it is not clear on those. The thing is, when we talk about the food, according to the Buddhism, there are different varieties of foods. Basically, foods are those are comprised of mass and taste and liquid and those types of things. But that kind of food is just required for specific variety of lifestyle. Not all the types of lifestyle need that kind of food, or varieties of life need those kind of foods. The contact is different variety of food, nourishment that is needed, and it is needed by a different varieties of life. And volition and concentration is also a kind of nourishment that is needed specifically for the existence and for the continuity of the consciousness. So, as I explained in the beginning, from the Buddhist point of view, life is kind of a very foundational and very kind of a primary support of the consciousness. If we look at from that point of view, it makes sense why the contact, volition, and concentration is explained as a nourishment, which cannot be acceptable to the scientific community because life is explained from a different perspective. So next thing is it possible to improve life and consciousness? If yes, how to improve them? So when we get there, scientists say that yes, but methods vary greatly, ranging from medicine, science, business, education and technology, etc. Buddhism says yes, methods are explained in great detail, mainly spiritual training taught in Dharma, in the way to elevate life and improve consciousness. Now here, I think we, instead of addressing the kind of life and consciousness itself, if we address this part, then comes into the picture the Buddhist spirituality. So Buddhist spirituality is something that is very different from the science. So in Buddhist spirituality, it explains the kind of detailed method how to improve the life, how to kind of improve the consciousness, how to make consciousness grow more kind of efficient and more powerful, and a lot of such characters, how can it be improved? Like specifically, when we talk about the concentration and when we talk about the kind of insight and all those things, those are the ways that can be employed to improve the consciousness and elevate one's consciousness to the higher level and make the life more kind of meaningful and make one's living more peaceful and happy. So that is that way. Is it possible to produce new life and new consciousness? This is another question. So here, science probably say maybe or probably say probably or yes, but I'm not clear on the science part of it because it's once again a kind of a field that to be addressed by my friends. Buddhism says no, there is no chance to produce new life. Life produced at present must be continued from the source life in past. It's a recycling process. No chances at all to produce a fresh new consciousness without involvement of source consciousness in the past. So this is very clear. Buddhism is very clear on that. There may be some, just recently, the question was asked to Professor Chris by, excuse me? David. Is it possible to kind of produce new life? So according to the Buddhism, it is not possible at all. Unless there is not involvement of a life that is existing before that. There is no possibility. Now, in the consciousness, when we talk about the consciousness, it applies completely similar way. So there should be a kind of continuity of the consciousness. So from that point of view, now, okay, I'm coming to the end. So here, the difference between the scientific community and the Buddhism on explain the life is huge. I feel like the definition of the science, it is all dependent on the definition of the life. How do you define the life? Because according to the Buddhism, it is not necessary to have any kind of form to sustain life or to have consciousness. Consciousness is capable to sustain by itself without any support of the form. So that is a very different, very completely different way of looking at the consciousness. Because the scientific community's approach, I think, is based primarily on our day-to-day experience, how we experience, how we interact with the rest of the world. But Buddhism explains the universe and the world in a much wider perspective, which makes huge differences in between these two traditions. So, from that point of view, there are huge differences. But I think there could be certain areas certain areas that the Buddhism or the Buddhist study of life and consciousness can agree with some of those findings of the scientist community. After all, scientist community's study is focused on something, and it can be right, or it can be kind of appropriate to agree with them on that particular issue, but not on a kind of overall issue in a big scale. So that is what I feel. So I would like to stop here, and you're most welcome to bring up the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken Rinpoche.
Thank you.
That excellent comparison between contemporary science and Buddhist perspectives. We'll start just to check in with our panel up here to see if there are questions, and I know that you're producing questions from the audience, and if there's not time to get to them in our short period here, we'll do our best to attend to them in the panel later. Let me reintroduce our esteemed panel on stage here. Geshe Sangling Toku on the left, and Nawang Palki, Geshe Jamyang Tendar, and Karma. So, any questions from you all?
Di tsarika nolola jikten chokcheten barki chemuni ta guzgni ma jikten de chikayong go seta ngazu nomba china kawa chokcheta tombu karsa chakkadtani aniwi kawa tani ziki kawa thamate tongi kawa chineta kawa teramba jenda uchineta ngazu jikten charamsi ni soyong go 어디지 되거나 단 체력 나오는 마켓 체모니 지된 직대 석세 지다 당가도 넘비 존에 가와 석세 니데라 지금 템비 속속으로 간리 직원이나 아니 지금 문템비 속으로 지금 속으로 가리가리오는데 리모치 공색하려고.
So Geshe-la's question is that, like, in scientific system, we talk about the Big Bang as the beginning of the universe, and in Buddhist traditions, we talk about the emergence and the existence and finally the end of the universe. And there's a specific cycle about the beginning and the end of the universe. And so when we bring these two traditions together, which are the diverging points and which are the converging points between these two philosophical traditions when they talk about the existence of the universe?
지단 코도 뒤적 찬 제비나 당한도 뒤야 경 매버도 지레 세리 전 제비나 로 빌리언 쭉숨네 정아 받으러와 딘드도 뭐 뒤통동 시부지레다 통동 시부지 당한도 깨져디 코라 단다 깨바 버게 개주 깨져져와 경 도사 코라 야마다 다 버게 개주 깨져 딩도 셰 온데 점발아 아니 버게 Chigla billion sum get but lot billion sum get chinshas me three get the shame gorwa. The imbi in a tongue of the Geshe or day mar to Zug Chanchena. The Tuzug Chan get a masheviche, the Tuzug pass pasha. The young of the Shindaji ton get shavena, then they shake you get something. Manzugi share the Tonga Jigde Chadan, the Jigde Chaya Junga, Lung Junga Tamu Shibuji, Annie, you get Ma Yumbares. Something namde ma yumbare thi ani rimbegi kombe chini ta ne tige buge jigdengi ne chabres dushi gorwa didi jikuni keba da tuzu geja jorwa dipa yugni geja shebina pini tumbe cha yong misiba mare yong sigre ina tak tuzu ge cha dingema kura shungne sheba thara shabena chung tuya yosamare chizo dindi samta yosarda. So I explained him, if we kind of retain the time span that is given in kind of Buddhist Abhidhamma text that took to emergence of this kind of solar system, and then the existence and sustenance of it, and then kind of a destruction of it. If we took retain that kind of time span, there is no way that we can get closer to the Big Bang. If we kind of completely wipe that out, and then after wiping that out, if we try to combine or do a comparison in between the Big Bang and the Buddhist way of explaining the emergence of the universe, there could be certain points that we can say that it appears quite similar to that, it appears quite similar to that. So it's like that.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I like very much the definition of life as a center of support for consciousness, and I think these are very interesting things to consider. And a discussion that I've often had with monks over the years is where do you draw the boundaries around where consciousness is possible or where sentience is possible. So you consider a sentient being perhaps to be a fly, but is a plant, a sentient being. And I'm wondering what you or Abhidhamma, might have to say about what is possible as, can bacteria be conscious by these definitions?
I don't know if bacteria have a kind of intelligence or not. If bacteria have a capability to think, then I can accept bacteria to be conscious and be a sentient being. So it's all dependent on generally we don't accept the idea that plants can think. So as long as anything that cannot think, that don't have that capability to think, it is not to be accepted as a sentient being. So bacteria, it is all dependent on if the bacteria can think.
What do you mean by think?
Think means the bacteria can have planning, and then based on that planning he can move, and he can he can move to consume the things, and he can do those functions that those intelligent beings can do. So that is what I feel.
Well, this may be the seeds for a longer discussion later, because it's a very, very interesting point. Is that the same as your definition of simply clarity of nature and function of knowing? So, to be continued.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ngaranzugi dan nangju ne shek delaya namshi se on kanla namshi thamu shengwa ro tanda tserba ge se on kanla pen namshi do de kyone khundul be ngodo do je kyone mendo de indu kanla namshi thamu di shumjer gibe lungsam thamu ji yore ro lung tinde thamu de mangbu ji chu du ba ina ragwa ji chaye na sa kan shwe de.
I would like to ask Rinpoche a very small question. From Buddhist point of view, when we talk about consciousness, we can talk about a very subtle consciousness. And along with that, we talk about very wind energy which carries or which embodies that subtle consciousness. And when we ask our science scholars, they don't really have overall acceptable definition of what is consciousness. And so my question really is that if we combine these subtle wind energies together, then can we have a grosser level of wind energy that we can detect in a gross level?
Chidang di namshi chamyu gu namsha shie di yang nangbeg shung nanglo la yongda ma imba che yang tumu ma imba che redwa yongda ge jige namshi gi namsha shie undu namshi chamyu ke je di yungya marwa ta di tumu ma imba de khashi china an namshi chamyu gu namsha shie di ge ani shombe lung gi namsha shie dine shie ni yung dia jore ina yang di shombe lung gi namsha di lung the tun du ni ani lung rakpa rigi yor besna di khande ina samthingi di shombe lung di lung rakpa rigi yona di shombe lung di zo di peje ta jig namshe chamyu da namsha thi ten gebe shombe lung thon ge je shebe ina ni di shombe lung di yang peje nami imbe sonrochi she gung ro chage yore jig le la so be wang chungwe di shebe ina di yan du ni ani jig pge chik rakwa nami rakwa chagyu yona mena se di chik di ya sega shungna di sega dinde ji yore se di sega jang thong ma ju di shutu ya chik shungna sega ma thong ba yin jang di shunu tebre ena ya ta tanda di namshi chamyu ge namsha di tanda di namshi ge namsha she undu mage tanda ngaz ngombe ge shungna tanda ngomba zöge na tanda dila namshi thara ge namsha chik chidang ta namshi la nangsing thara yorte ngaz dige shindu thave namshi ge namsha di yungu ya marwa di maybe indu tinde re de ina tanda di mage na tanda ne den debe lugi ngomba duba sing jore ngomba dube namsha she undu ngomba dube nang tini thuba yi gi namshi gi ani ten dila yang nganzo wangshi gi ten la sukjing ongbu shaba na chi thuba yi gi namshi gi ten la yang nyingi ongbu sing sha ngudwa nyingi ongbu se de sechu che undu ani nyingi gildu nebe ani shindu thave jik page sukjing jing la sha gyo re se chi di she undu dig de she gya undu ta di chetanda tes di insare tanda di ngomba duba di pheke thol gyuriya di tanda varanasi gi tholob gi lobe semba dojla gyuriyore di gyurdu khunan di gi deba chiyore deba di na deshe gyabendu halam ma doji gi di ta sanga lamya ni shebe peje chik bage nganzu di mishik bi tigle se chi gyorwa ti da chanyam du chi da chanda bu du se chi tin sung yore ina yang di chige ta lobin chimbo semba dojla khurangi sanga lamya sik ani phajo de chik bage ngoba duba de sik ni ga si bin za tinde gi thone an chik sung ba yingir ma du ji khurang zo gi chik re ne den de be gi ngobe shung nang lo la ani mishik bi tigle se thanye di yunga ayo sam sam dab chi chedan dinde gi ta deshi ge dang gi khebar ji yungu sare ta di indu o dinde jiresha my answer is in general Buddhist studies the explanation of this kind of very subtle consciousness doesn't exist. It is a very specific kind of explanation that is found in very specific part of Buddhist studies. And that is a very kind of common and prevalent in Tibetan Buddhist tradition. It is not common in other Buddhist traditions. So from that point of view, from that point of view of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, it's very difficult to say that the kind of the mount of that subtle consciousness, which is known to be the kind of a subtle wind, can kind of how to say evolve and become kind of coarse matter. It's very difficult to say that because the text is not very clear on these issues, and it seems like it's a kind of ripening. It's a ripening state of some kind of karmic action. If it is a ripening state of some kind of karmic action, then it could be very difficult to say that it can evolve to the kind of a level of being a very coarse wind. So it's like that. Then beside that, when we talk about the subtle mind, even though this in the kind of Abhidhamma tradition, they have different levels of subtleness of mind explained, but they still don't explain that subtlest level of mind that is explained in the highest Yoga Tantra. So there are huge differences in that way. But then there are some tradition like Abhidhamma studies done in the Pali tradition, specifically the text is Abhidhamma At Sangho. It is lately translated into Tibetan and it's available in Tibetan language now. So in that text, the Abhidhamma At Sangho explains or kind of put forward a presentation of the sixth physical sense organ, which is the kind of unexistence, which doesn't exist according to the Abhidhamma Kosha tradition. But the Abhidhamma Atsanga tradition explains that kind of a sixth physical sense organ, and which is kind of explained as a base of the kind of a sixth consciousness. And then the scholar who translated the text also kind of have written a commentary on it, and in his commentary he says that maybe this sixth physical sense organ could be kind of the Abhidhamma Atsanga text or writer could be pointing towards the kind of subtle subtle drop. But none of the Abhidhamma literature explains about the subtle drop. So it could be possible that the scholar who translated this text from the original Pali language, because he has knowledge about this subtle drop and all those things, because he is an expert in Tibetan Buddhism, so he may have felt, or he may have kind of put this idea forward that they may be kind of referring for that. So it's like that.
Thank you, Ken Rinpoche.
Yeah.
I think what we're learning is that these topics are so huge and bring up so many questions that 10 minutes isn't enough. So there were many fine questions from the audience. We will be reviewing these over the tea break, and we'll try to address as many as we can during the panel later this afternoon. But now we'll be moving on to the second presentation of the afternoon. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.